Hello, and thanks for joining us here on Encore. Coming up in today's film show.
Nico, you made a big mess tonight.
What are these?
Nico's unforgettable voice is revived in a film which revisits the final chapter of the singer's life as she carves out a solo career after the Velvet Underground.
You tell me your secrets and I'll tell you mine.
You two are involved.
Colombia's most notorious drug baron is back on the big screen. Javier Bardem embodies Escobar and Penelope Cruz, his long-term lover. And we're treated to a masterclass in Iranian cinema from Amir Naderi. The director spoke to France 24 during his retrospective here in Paris. For all of that, I'm joined by film critic Lisa Nesselson. Hi, Lisa.
Hello, Olivia.
We're starting with a film out this week in France, Nico 1988. Now, that's written and directed by Italian director Susanna Nicchiarelli. It explores the last 2 years in the life of musician, fashion model, counterculture icon who sang with the Velvet Underground very memorably, Nico, of course. This film has won prizes in Italy and in France. Is it worth seeing?
Nah, not really. No, not to gush, swoon, or go overboard, but I love, love, love this film. Danish actress Trine Dyrholm, who does her own singing, could not be better. The woman the world knows as Nico was born in Germany, and she really got around. So I'm going to drop some names now. Watch out, this is going to be like a pop culture multivitamin. Jim Morrison suggested that she write down her dreams, and that's how Nico began making her own music after singing at Andy Warhol's behest just 3 songs with the Velvet Underground on an album called The Velvet Underground and Nico, which is a cleverly titled thing to come up with by people who, as she said in an interview, took a lot of LSD. That's what we did. But what songs they were, written by Lou Reed and carried by Nico's incredibly exotic, terminally foreign husky voice. Femme Fatale, All Tomorrow's Parties, and I'll Be Your Mirror. It didn't hurt that she was drop-dead gorgeous, although maybe we shouldn't bandy about the term drop dead too lightly.
Well, as well as New York, Nico had a strong connection to France, didn't she?
Indeed, she did. From 1970 to 79, she made 7 films with her then-boyfriend, the French director Philippe Garrel, and she had a son with Alain Delon, who never acknowledged the boy, Ari. He was taken away from her when he was 4, and the film shows us how mother and grown son reconnect in deep yet awkward ways. Drugs are never far from the picture. It's a road movie with stops in Paris, Prague, Nuremberg, and the Polish countryside. It starts in Manchester in 1986 and ends on Ibiza in 1988. Nico, who performed in still communist countries under sometimes harrowing conditions, did not live to see the fall of the Berlin Wall and the tension of the kind of political oppression that goes along with despising the art that comes from the West is very wonderfully conveyed. And boy, can the actress who plays Nico sing. I spoke to the director, who speaks more languages than most universities offer, about the fact that Nico's lasting fame was born in America, but that wasn't her core identity by a long shot. Let's watch.
I'm sure that deep down, you must be proud of what these people are risking to see you perform.
One of the themes of the film is European identity. She was born in 1938, so just before the beginning of the Second World War. She grew up in bombed Berlin. She was hungry as a child, and she knew defeat. She brought with her the shame of being German for her whole life, and it was something she talked about a lot. The 80s were much more a gothic period than we admit, or than we see when we see the commercials and the material coming from the 80s. It seemed like it was an hedonist moment, you know, but it wasn't so. It was full of contradictions. So the film is about that too.
Now, Nico is a hoot because she speaks her mind, no matter who she hurts or how oblivious she seems. If she requires heroin, then she blurts out, heroin, we need heroin, the way you and I might say, I need a pencil and a piece of paper. She's fascinating for many reasons, but one of them is that she really didn't care about commercial success. And she professes to be much happier now that she's dispensed with her beauty. Beauty, as we know, tends to fade, and I like the incredibly talented but notoriously not handsome Serge Gainsbourg's comment, which is, I like ugliness because it lasts. It endures.
It is indeed in the eye of the beholder. Now, to another true story with a central character who's inspired television and filmmakers recently, and that is Colombian drug kingpin Pablo Escobar. This film stars Javier Bardem as the man in question, is based on a book by Virginia Vallejo, a woman who knew him intimately, and she's played here by Penelope Cruz. The website Rotten Tomatoes gave this a painfully low score. Do those reviewers know what they're talking about, in your opinion?
No, they don't, so I'll have to have them killed with chainsaws or maybe preliminary strangulation followed by chainsaws. You learn so much from the movies. Some films teach us that taking drugs can be dangerous and lead to an ugly, premature death. Movies like Loving Pablo, called Escobar here because I think if people saw Loving Pablo, they would assume it was about Picasso, teach us that dealing drugs can be dangerous and lead to an ugly premature death. Same goes for insulting or just inconveniencing people who deal drugs. So it is absolutely true. Drugs are bad for you. Virginia is a nationally known TV host and journalist in Colombia, a founding member of the Medellin cartel. Pablo is a nouveau riche drug lord who has managed to make $2 billion in 2 years. And this is in the early 1980s when $2 billion really meant something, you know?
So what about the love story at the centre of this book here? They're dating. She's dating a ruthless cartel kingpin. Is that romantic? Walks in the park?
Well, after they've been romantically involved for a while, and they're quite passionate, Pablo gives Virginia a valuable object in a nice case. And no, it's not jewelry, it's a gun. And she says she does not want or need a gun. And he says, oh, no, you do. And he gives perhaps the best speech I've ever heard about why you should own a gun. It involves what enemies will do to her reproductive organs with plugged-in hair dryers and electric mixers if she doesn't shoot them first.
Wow.
Here's a look at the guy who put the sick in Sicario.
Well, it is painful for us to see so many children starving, completely unprotected by the government. And building these houses for them helps us to create a country that we always dreamed about. I love Colombia, and now that we have the chance to give back to this beautiful country that gave us so much, that is exactly what we're doing.
That day I decide that I don't care how Pablo makes his money, only how he uses it.
Such injustice is the reason behind it. This was the 80s in Colombia, the time of the shine and the gold and the brightness and the power, and she wanted some part of that, of course, and I think Pablo wanted to be close to her because she was powerful with the media in order for him to get and reach more people.
So the message here could be that it takes guts and brains to be successful in this very specific industry.
Well, these guys are so ingenious. A special group of 500 Colombian police are looking for Escobar full-time. They can't find him, and he keeps cages full of birds at his hideout in the jungle. Why is that? Well, if helicopters come looking for you, shooting at them with guns is good, but a flock of birds interferes with the propellers, and its ability to remain airborne is compromised. Worth the price of admission is a scene that at first looks like a traffic accident on a highway in Florida, but turns out to be the first step in an absolutely breathtaking delivery of bundles of cocaine. Bardem positively luxuriates in his massive beer belly and double chin. This is a very committed performance, and this is certainly the best Spain-Bulgaria co-production you'll see this month.
Okay, I'm sure it is. Now, finally, if I was looking for a crash course on the last 40 years in Iranian cinema, I think you've got a suggestion for me.
I do, but it involves camping out at the Pompidou Center here in Paris, which is mounting the first ever complete retrospective of the Iranian director Amir Naderi, accompanied by choice examples of modern Iranian movies since the Islamic Revolution. Now, you may have heard of Mohsen Makhmalbaf and his family, or the late Abbas Kiarostami. Examples of their films are included, along with some other directors whose names are less familiar outside Iran. The Iranian Revolution will be marking 40 years, and one of the things it seems to have inadvertently done best is to force many gifted filmmakers into exile or to punish them for artistic expression. Three Faces, the latest film by Jafar Panahi, has been invited to compete in Cannes next month, as has the director, who has been under house arrest in Tehran for several years. Almost every film Panahi has ever made has won a major award at a festival, and deservedly so. Panahi was named to the main jury in Cannes a few years ago, but he was not permitted to attend, and his fellow jurors elegantly left an empty seat for him and made quite sure that the outside world knew who should have been sitting in it. This retrospective runs through June 17th. Amir Naderi, who has made some 20 movies in his native Iran, in New York, Italy, and as we are about to see, even in Japan, was here in Paris to introduce 15 showings of his films, and we asked him what it was like to interact so intensively with audiences.
I know about myself more, and I find that, what kind of theme I followed in cinema. Search about something. Every my character, I find it look into something. Sometimes they never find it, but I love that process to search, because help me to, as a director, show the city, show the relationship, show the capacity of the people, how can relate to each other or connect to each other. It's very interesting theme. I choose that from the beginning.
いつも誰かに追われてる感じだな。借金取り。今日警察です。この辺で演説するとすぐに警察が来るんです。また人混みで大声出してたんだろう。大声って映画の話してただけですよ。いつかなんか大事やるんじゃないかって心配になるよ。三島由紀夫かよみたいな。時代が違うんだからさ。街の人間も警察も昔ほどおおらかじゃないしね。
Even with different language or culture, definitely, with image, and you can, communicate to everybody, around the world.
Iran is an incredibly cinephile nation. There are daily publications devoted entirely to movies. In comparison, the U.S. can barely sustain a few monthly publications about film. The opening film in Cannes on May 8th is Everybody Knows, the latest movie by Asghar Farhadi, which, interestingly enough, also stars Javier Bardem and Penelope Cruz.
Indeed, we'll be looking out for that next month. Thank you very much for joining us this week, Lisa. We'll leave you with some Iranian cinema that emphatically doesn't star Javier Bardem and Penelope Cruz, a look at Naderi's retrospective at the Pompidou Centre. Do remember to check out our website, and you can keep up with Encore on Twitter, Facebook and Instagram too. There's more news coming up on France 24 after this.